we love that, Antoine. Antoine is really setting the stage. But cool, it is 4:05, guys. So we will kickstart. Thank you all so much for joining our first virtual insight session with HSBC. It's been a long time coming. I feel like we haven't run virtual insight sessions for a bit because
Yep.
we are busy making content on social media, trying to encourage you guys to apply for these jobs as well. I can see a few people are from our WhatsApp GC as well, which is really good. But we're really pleased to have HSBC as our latest employer partner to showcase all the opportunities that they have from internships to also grad applications as well. I believe some of their grad roles just went live recently as well, all across the UK. So not just London, Sheffield, Birmingham, Leeds, and they've kindly brought their recruitment team and their current grads as well, so that you can ask all the questions you want. A few housekeeping rules: please make sure that you keep all your microphones on mute. Feel free to turn on your cameras. A lot of you have submitted questions beforehand as well. And what we're going to do over the course of today is I'm going to try and pass that on to the HSBC team as they're going through their presentation. And then also feel free to use the chat function as well to kind of drop in your questions. And the HSBC team, the grads, will kindly kind of like chat with a few people and answer questions as we go through the session as well. But with that being said, I am pleased to hand it off to Craig to kick off the presentation.
Cool. Thank you very much, Stephen. I'm going to take it off the whole slide just so we've got an opportunity for us from HSBC to introduce ourselves. So, hello everyone. My name's Craig Thompson. I met Stephen via LinkedIn a few months ago, probably 6 months ago. Yeah, I just really liked the fresh approach that Beyond Education had to this entire market. We got chatting, and here we are today as partners. So I'm really, really excited to be working with Beyond Education and the team. So this is one of a flurry of events that we'll be hosting. But more importantly, I'm delighted to be joined by some of my colleagues today who are going to showcase life at Birmingham. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Meenakshi first. Probably Maxi. I should probably introduce what I do as well. So I work in employer brand across all lines of businesses. That's about as much as you need to know. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, relatively active, but first and foremost, let's go over to our recruiters first and then on to our graduates. So Meenakshi, do you want to just give a brief introduction in terms of your role?
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. Firstly, like Craig said, I'm Meenakshi Patel. I'm one of the graduate and intern recruiters here. I work specifically in two of the core business areas, so wealth and personal banking on the retail side, and commercial banking. So those are the two areas. In terms of what I do, it really varies. Stuff like this, like, in terms of wanting to speak to you, wanting to answer your questions. I go out on campus, I host events at the Birmingham office. We've done quite a few of them recently, which has been great. And also supporting with the assessment centres. So definitely can give a few hints and tips along the way a bit later. But I'll pass over to my colleague Becky now, who's also in the team.
Hi everyone, my name's Becky Rebecca. I am one of the recruiters as well. Echo pretty much everything that Meenakshi just said, as we have the same role and work in the same business areas as well. So I know you're all on here to see a little bit more of a deep dive into wealth and personal banking, and that is one of the roles that I help attract and recruit for as well. So happy to take any questions. But yeah, lovely to see all your faces as well, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Cool. Thanks, Becky. I think first graduate we'll come to is Miriam. So Miriam, a little introduction, please. Thanks for joining.
Hiya. So I'm one of the graduates. I'm in my first placement as part of the Wealth and Personal Banking graduate scheme. I've just finished a degree at the University of Manchester where I studied geography. So definitely not like a directly finance linked degree, but obviously I'm sure as we'll come to later that, never a reason to be held back. HSBC offers all kinds of different programs regardless of your degree background. I'm quite honest and open in the fact that I was first introduced to HSBC as someone from like a lower opportunity background that was kind of found by an organisation and put in touch with HSBC. So I've had a really rewarding journey and been quite lucky to go through the whole process and now be back as a graduate.
And I believe we have Simon, who's actually at our Birmingham offices in 1 Churchill. So Simon.
Yes, hello. Yeah, hi, I'm Simon. I'm also one of the Wealth and Personal Banking graduates. I've same as Miriam, in the first rotation of my of my grad scheme, and suppose since we're sharing stuff that's a bit more unique about us and how we found our ways into HSBC. So I didn't really take a very sort of like traditional way to get here. So I studied Italian history at university, something that's completely unrelated to the banking and finance world. But yeah, still managed to get on the program, and you know, it's just a very good opportunity to learn something new every day that you've not been in contact with beforehand.
Molto bene, Simon. That was hideous. Sorry. Okay, what we're going to do is going to move on to some of the slides. We'll skip through these relatively quickly because I know the far more interesting thing is asking questions to those based out of Birmingham. So this is just high level for any information that Stephen and the team at Beyond Education haven't already shared with you. So in terms of the actual business area itself, so I mean the guys on the call will be able to do a much better job than me working in it themselves. I worked in this division about 6 years ago, so it's changed a lot in that time. But ultimately, these are our colleagues in wealth and personal banking, supporting individuals, families, business owners, investors, and entrepreneurs. They ultimately help to provide the products and services like current accounts and services, credit cards, personal loans, mortgages, as well as things such as savings, investments, insurance, and wealth management. It does include colleagues who work in the contact centres and the branches, obviously helping customers in person as well as those in our call centres, online, digitally, etc. And there's lots and lots of specialised relationship managers who support the customers, including those high net worth individuals as well, those with plenty of money, so the ultra high net worth clients with their very specific requirements as well. So in terms of relationship manager, which is one of the avenues that grads ultimately have an aspiration to potentially go on to once the grad program's over, they're very much around being people's people. So they thrive obviously when working with others and truly love finding a way to deliver upon and exceed customers' expectations. So it takes a lot of good collaboration and communication, as well as strong self-awareness and plenty of people skills as well. So if some of those skills align with what you're looking for and what you're interested in, then this is definitely an avenue that you want to be considering. This is just more of an overarching view of the emerging talent programs that exist within HSBC within the UK. You'll see in the top left-hand side, they're the shared mailboxes for each of the business lines. So I didn't give you the big fanfare of how many different business pillars feed into HSBC as an entity, but there are technically 3. So that's global banking and markets, wealth and personal banking, and commercial banking. Digital business services, which is our tech arm, ultimately is the foundational element and looks after all tech aspects, including data, cyber, and engineering facets. But you'll see from this very basic map is that we have insights programs. They're first year programs, so those highlighted in yellow with the black right in here at the very bottom of the funnel. They're predominantly for first year students looking to basically make a step in their career. They take place in April of next year, and they're for first year students or those effectively graduating in 2027. And are a great avenue, and it's one thing that we want to reveal to you as well, because we find more and more often with first year students as well that they often overlook these insight programs, or as they're otherwise known, spring weeks, because they're a great avenue to get early access to the internship opportunities, which I'm sure you're more than versed with, which are also then a very common avenue onto the graduate programs. So once upon a time, applying directly to a graduate program was the thing to do, but very much now it's quite early doors. So getting involved with insight programs and internships is definitely recommended, because there's very few final graduate roles that are left at the very end. So as you follow the chain through, you'll see ultimately what is covered across summer internships. There are industrial placement programs, so those doing a sandwich degree or those able to take a deferred year from their degree can do that for a year to 8 to 13 months. And then these final 2 on the red here are very much focused on global banking and markets, which is not situated within Birmingham, as we won't be focusing too much on that. But they all lead into effectively the graduate program, which Miriam and Simon obviously are recent joiners too, and they'll be able to elaborate on their journey, their experience during the induction, and any other questions that you might have that are going to be particularly pertinent or interesting to you guys. So I've already touched upon what the Insight programs are and the internship programs. They are both paid, by the way. Insight programs very much cover your expenses. They're a 4-day program, and they will be based out of Birmingham, Sheffield, or London, so you can apply for either. The internship programs are 10 weeks. They're also very well paid. And within Birmingham, they are based obviously in terms of wealth and personal banking and commercial banking, which obviously the guys will be able to elaborate on a little bit more. The application process, which we'll touch upon, because I'm sure there will be some questions that come through, relatively simple, and there will be separate sessions that will be running beyond education on this, but application form, relatively simple in terms of the first step. That's basically your registration details, email, password, etc. You will then move on to an online immersive assessment. That's a universal assessment that is done by every business line, regardless of whether you're applying to Singapore, Hong Kong, US, UK. That is a universal assessment, mixture of numerical, verbal, and problem-solving questions. But don't fear, as soon as you've started to complete the application form, you will get access to something known as the Candidate Hub in our practice zone, which we'll give you a link for during this session, so you can basically perfect your practice and skills related to any online immersive assessments. The job simulation, which I'm hoping that Simon and Miriam may be able to give you some real insight on, because they have absolutely aced it, obviously, to get their roles, is effectively the video assessment. So a lot of people seem to dread these. There's no reason to. We're hopefully going to put your mind at rest, build you with a bit of confidence in terms of some of the preparation that you can do to help give yourself the best opportunity in terms of passing those. And then final assessment is as dependent on where you're going into, but ultimately be a range of interviews, which are a combination of skills, motivation, and light technical questions, which focus more so on your commercial awareness. Another hot topic, but we will cover what commercial awareness means to us and how best to prepare for it during this session. Just so you're aware, this is one of the advice that we provide to candidates that is considering, rather than push you straight to just apply now, get your application in, worry about later. We actually recommend you to go through these steps. So I've name dropped some of these before. So the skills matcher tool is ultimately there to help you decipher where your current skill set could help lead you. And I'll show you a short video on that in just a second. Second is the virtual work experience. So these are with an organization called Forage, which we built. So you can build up your virtual work experience, actually try and attempt some of the activities that grads and interns do on a day-by-day basis, just to see if you're going to actually like the work itself. The practice zone, which is I've already mentioned, and then the Candidate Hub is there. And funny enough, I think Meenakshi and Becky, I think you both feature on it still quite prominently in terms of advice and guidance for how to ace certain assessments, how to prepare, little bits of advice and tips along the way. So very, very useful, and I would argue underutilized, if I'm honest with you. So candidates that do tend to utilize these resources, weirdly, tend to do better than those that don't. What a shock. Here's a video. There we go.
Can you do this? If you said, not yet, then HSBC is right for you. When you work for us, every day you're learning. You're part of an international community that thrives on free-flowing ideas. So every day, our experts will teach you. Our managers will coach you. Our courses will train you. Our mentors will guide you. You've got the strengths we need. You've got the drive we need. You've got the passion we need. And we'll give you the knowledge to use it. At HSBC, we believe nobody ever stops learning. And as you grow, we grow.
Okay. So for one, it would appear I've played the wrong video, which is always good. So I will bring up the right video before we get to the end. But ultimately, it touches upon the skills approach that we've actually got, which is basically a metamorphosis of our previous strengths approach. So the skills approach is, well, there's effectively two different types. So there's the technical skills, which are effectively your practical abilities and knowledge you need to do the role that you're in. So skills such as macroeconomic analysis, programming, financial modeling, for example. These skills change and shift depending on business and industry changes or from role to role. They're like the leaves on a tree, hence the diagram. They constantly grow and will need to be developed and refreshed throughout your career. There are also behavioral and cognitive skills that enable you to thrive in a role. Skills like drive and ability to collaborate or think analytically, as we were referencing before in the role. These are also needed throughout a career, and these are like the roots on a tree. So they give you the power to adapt and keep acquiring new technical skills. So these skills also have to be nurtured. As just like with a tree, if the roots are damaged, the leaves will not grow. So keeping your behavioral and your cognitive skills in check is integral to being able to develop your technical skills. So when you ultimately look to apply, hopefully to join us, we'll be looking at the behavioral and the cognitive skills that you can bring rather than any existing technical skill or direct experience of finance or banking. In fact, over 60% of our grads come from non-finance backgrounds. You've already heard from two of those. That's because we can and will teach you the technical skills that you need. So the ability to be versatile and a desire to adapt and keep learning, interest is far more valuable to both our business and, of course, your future career itself. And the skills matcher tool that we discussed features on here. I do actually have the video embedded within here. So I'm going to try playing that now, if that's okay, Stephen. So bear with me while it comes up.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. And then you can get to the questions.
Yeah, sure.
Craig, I think you went away from the video.
I'm aware. Yeah, the music's so good, we'll rewatch. Perfect. Thank you very much. See, that's a much better video, that one. A lot slicker, and hopefully
Most definitely.
as well. So yeah, Stephen, I'll pass back over to you. And yeah, field questions to the grads and the recruiters, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that comprehensive overview, Craig. I think, to be honest, you covered a lot of, I guess, like key details and some questions that I already have. We had a number of questions submitted across like the role in the industry, application process, preparation and success tips. So what I'll do is I'll kind of run through some of the prevalent ones. And Demi and Antoine, if you can kind of like monitor the chat, I can see Meenakshi is already kind of replying to some questions as well. So thank you for that, Meenakshi. I guess like the first obvious question, more so like to the grads on the call, what attracted you to work in wealth and private banking? And I think I'll preface that by saying, in a world where like in the finance industry, it's pretty much investment banking and all the other high finance roles, you know, wealth and personal banking is not really a prevalent career option that's really advertised as much. So what made you guys like, you know, drawn to that industry?
Yeah, fine. That's okay with you, Miriam. I'm just going to take this one first. What attracted me was the chance to actually work with people face to face. Whereas with a lot of the commercial roles or these like investment banking roles, it's all quite, you do interact with people from like outside your organization as well, but it's not really like a person at the other end that's always acting on their interest, so that's hoping to achieve their own personal goals. Whereas within this aspect of wealth management, especially if you do it tailored to specific clients, I just like that aspect a lot more because I personally felt that you can have a bigger tangible impact on an individual as well, as opposed to you just almost being a facilitator for other transactions to go through or for larger things at play. And it's also what Craig has said rightfully at the start is this aspect of tailoring the financial advice that you have to give specifically to an individual. It's a lot more versatile. It's a lot more. It's a very changing environment because you have to take a lot of different aspects into considerations. Whereas with other ones, you would be hyper specialized in this one area, and you just constantly do that. So this is just what I found a bit more interesting.
Nice. Miriam, maybe you can give an alternative perspective, or is that something that's similar on your end as well?
So I think because of my like degree background, I've always been really interested in like sustainability and the climate. So I think my first placement is in sustainability, so I've been quite lucky with that. But I think for me, kind of getting to work with individuals and kind of knowing that deep down, if we're to make like changes to the climate, it's got to start at that individual personal level. To me, that's really rewarding to kind of help people make those small changes that overall make something a lot bigger. I think it's a lot easier to help one individual customer change than, you know, a massive like corporate organization. So for me, that's what I find most rewarding about it.
Nice. No, thank you for that insight. And a big topic at the moment, I mean, it's been a big topic for a while now, is AI within every single industry. So I wanted to kind of understand, maybe you take it with you, Miriam, like how has it impacted like, you know, your day-to-day work? Has it influenced like, you know, anything that you've been doing? Have you heard any news about it, like, you know, within the organization?
Yeah, definitely. I think being a bank, like we're quite uniquely placed because obviously we are quite like in many ways kind of way up like taking a risk and also taking on the risk of things going wrong. So I think, you know, for us it's about understanding when is the right time to pursue these things. I think more and more, you know, in kind of internal conversations, we're starting to launch different projects where AI is becoming a much bigger part of that. And I think it's really exciting to be kind of a younger person in this current situation because these jobs are only going to increase and the skills needed are only going to increase. So definitely from an internal perspective, AI is becoming much more prevalent. And I think for anyone that's interested in that, it's such a great opportunity because they're only going to become, you know, there's only going to be more opportunities basically in that space.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Simon, your perspective, any chance?
Yeah, no, what Miriam said is definitely correct. And in terms of obviously it influences the strategy that we're trying to adapt and where HSBC is trying to position itself in the market as it either being one of these early adopters, or one of the ones that are a bit more set back. It's not looking to do as much with it. From my understanding, a lot of work with AI and some of the new alternative ways of operating such a large business, especially tested within the Asian markets. So there's a lot of development there. From a UK perspective, as far as I've had exposure to it, I think what we're hoping to achieve with AI is just streamlining a lot of the processes in the background and a lot of things that we do. It's quite convoluted due to the multinational structure of the business. So I think AI could be a great driver for change there to identify easier solutions and streamline it a bit more as to reduce some of the like paperwork in the background that people still have to do.
No, most definitely. And I think, yeah, you know, a big part of like integrating AI into organizations is to make them more efficient. But, you know, we can't help but still be scared about the fact that it could take some people's jobs. And I think a big thing that I've kind of seen in the wealth and personal banking industry is, you know, robo-advising. So I don't know if that's something that's been a current challenge in the landscape of wealth and personal banking by any chance, or any general challenges that you can kind of speak to as far as the industry, just to help some of our attendees with their commercial awareness and materials when they're speaking to interviewers.
Yeah, I think kind of again coming from that sustainability angle, just because I feel fairly confident speaking about that because of my current placement. I think a lot of challenges at the moment are around like the changes in legislation and a lot of pressures for certain companies to kind of move towards net zero targets. And I definitely say like if that's an area you're interested in, I definitely recommend talking about that in interviews for that bit of commercial awareness, because it's a really hot topic and it is a challenge because we're all trying to move towards net zero, but it's not easy. It takes money, it takes time. And although we are, quite advanced in terms of as a bank, we realise we need to make these decisions. Obviously, everyone's at different stages. Not everyone has the same understanding of sustainability. So it's kind of being able to educate not just our customers, but our colleagues as well to know this is a priority.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And what would you say are your go-to sources of commercial awareness news and just keeping up to date? Maybe just to flesh out that question, maybe when you were kind of going through the process of preparing for interviews versus now when you're like fully in the role.
I think now I'm fully in the role, I'll probably use sites that I've been more directed to. So there's things like Morningstar, which is a good site, even just things like the Financial Times, kind of these big like organizations that kind of pay to do these big research projects. I think McKinsey's another one that does quite a lot of like climate research. I think when I was applying, the main thing that I did was try and tailor it to HSBC. So they've got loads of stuff on the website. I've just seen that Craig's put the kind of climate strategy link in there. I think when you're kind of preparing for a specific job at a specific company, it's always best to use their website because it's really tailored to, they're only putting out there what they want to put out there, so it's you can't get any kind of better information. But I also just like looked at recent news stories. I just went on like BBC and typed in like bank sustainability or something, and it would just obviously come up with really accessible articles.
Nice. Any perspective from your side, Simon?
Yeah, so I personally feel like it hasn't really changed all that much for me. I've always kept an eye on some of these things. I think one of the things that I find quite helpful is there's this app called Market Watch that you can get on your phone. Like you get dozens of notifications just throughout the day with like current news stories or current developments in the markets. And then, I mean, if you're interested in it already, just kind of try to rely on the resources you're having or that you've been using. If it's like this, or maybe like subscribe to like Bloomberg, or you look at the Financial Times, or you read this like very specific aspect of like a newspaper. And then obviously whilst on the roll, like we do have access to certain news agencies that send us updates every morning
Nice.
that are very tailored towards the wealth and personal banking industry. It expands over like a wide variety of different areas, and you get daily updates. So that's quite helpful, just because first thing you come in the morning, like you open up your email to just read the newsletter for like 5 or 10 minutes, and it gives you, whilst they only give you a brief overview, they tend to link out to the actual articles as well, where they got their sources from. So if the specific article is something that interests you, you can always refer back to that and get a better understanding of anything that's going on. And then with just if you're looking at a specific company, try to figure out what it is that they're trying to do in this particular moment in terms of like major strategic changes. So can you identify any areas that they're trying to move into a bit more aggressively, or are they like trying to restructure themselves in a way? Because it also gives you an understanding of what you could be getting involved with. It does give you a bit of an edge towards, as opposed to someone who has no idea about it, because in these interviews processes, if you have the chance to speak to people, like to an interviewer, and they will have a conversation with you, which is more like a very like, personal interaction. And if you can weave in any questions that you have, or like anything that you found stood out to you, it just always like sets you apart from the people that have not put the effort in.
Nice. And I really like the answer because it kind of like touches on the next question I was going to ask you, which is how do you stand out in the recruitment process? And I guess from an interview perspective, if you can kind of showcase that you have perspective and a view on various things happening within the space that you're applying to, then that's obviously going to make you stand out. One news source that I was going to mention that I think is quite helpful for me, a lot of you guys will be familiar that we curate corporate news every single week, and Investment Week has been a really good one, mainly because it kind of showcases like the different I guess like divisions within like the financial services industry. So like you would literally have like news on wealth management, personal banking, as well. So like it's really useful in that respect. And I think, Craig kind of mentioned this earlier, guys. You're not expected to be like a fully blown expert in this industry, right? Rightly so. Miriam came from like a different degree background, but it's more so just having curiosity and insight into the industry, and that would really help in that respect. Question for you, Miriam. What would you say are the best extracurricular activities that an undergraduate can kind of engage in, beyond being commercially aware? What were some of the key things that you were kind of doing just to kind of keep up with the industry and get a bit of insight into like, what you were going to go into?
Um, To be honest, I didn't do anything at uni or even at school that was like remotely linked to banking.
Mm,
I think the thing about HSBC is that like we have such a big kind of emphasis on values. So I think anything that kind of demonstrates values that align with the banks, like, wanting to work with others, taking responsibility for your actions, anything extracurricular that demonstrates those skills. So I did a lot of kind of volunteering with like a mental health charity because mental health is really important to me and to people that I know. I've had quite a lot of personal experience with it. So I did that. And I think when I could talk about that in my interview, it wasn't so much, oh, she's got this, like, I don't know, financial qualification or she's done this. It was the fact that I could demonstrate that I'd got the values that they wanted.
mhm.
So I think, yeah, anything that demonstrates values. I don't know if Simon did anything that was more like finance linked, but for me, it was just that kind of thing, really.
Got you. Anything from you, Simon? Is there anything specific that you did that maybe?
If you're looking for something like specific to the banking and finance industry, there is a lot of some universities put on these like business games.
Mm,
That's something I did before I joined HSBC, and it is helpful in the sense that, especially if you've not done an economics and finance degree, I advise you to, if you see chances like this, go for it, give it a try, because it does give you a better understanding of the intricacies and like the internal processes, how people think, how people that want to go into this industry act, because this is always something you have to take into consideration.
mhm,
Whilst it's always nice to look at the area, just reading about it and thinking, hey, this is something I want to be doing. If you can get any like concrete experience there, I'd urge you to go for that and talk to some of the people that have the same ambition as you and see how you see, because they will also give you a sense of what it is that you can be doing.
mhm.
And you can learn from them as much as they could possibly learn from you. So I think these opportunities are really valuable. And then just to add to what Miriam said, I don't think you have to have this very specific banking and finance, like pre-work experience. It's just more so like anything you do as a hobby. So I played a lot of sports at university, for example. And if that's something that you can like highlight and where you can draw certain skills that you think will be beneficial for you,
Mhm.
it's helpful in the CV writing process, it's helpful in the interview process, and it just gives you something that makes you interesting. Because this is something,
Mm,
just going back to your point about what it is that you can do to stand out in the interview, I think just trying to be that kind of person that people can have like an interesting conversation with, because that's going to be a lot more memorable as if you just bring a lot of like technical skills to the table that maybe 10 or 15 other people that they've spoken to previously also had. If there's like, it's one very unique, interesting thing that it is that you are doing in your free time, don't hide it, or like try to bring it out as much as you can, because this is most likely what's actually going to stick with the person you have the interview with.
no, most definitely. I think it's always trying to find a way to be memorable in front of the interviewer as well. I can just see Minaxi has her hand raised. I'm not sure if you wanted to cover something that you're seeing
Yeah,
in the
I
chat.
just wanted to add as well some great examples over there from Simon and Miriam as well. But from like a recruiter point of view, I guess the other thing is just don't forget to mention things like this that you're attending. Just being able to say that I attended a session like this is what I learned from it, and be able to showcase that shows your motivation and your interest. And we often find a lot of students tend to go through the process and forget about things and don't. Just make sure you mention it. It's just about finding a way to articulate, the experience. But even coming to something like this is so valuable. Don't forget to mention it in your interview when you come along to it. So just wanted to put that out there to everyone.
Yes, no, most definitely. Minaxi, you beat me to it. I was gonna say that, everyone should expect, and I'm excited to announce template, which should help them basically craft all their LinkedIn posts to talk about coming to events like this, because again, that makes you kind of stand out and shows your proactivity basically on the job search, which is always good as well. I can see, Antoine, you probably have a question that you kind of wanted to add, so I'll let you shoot before I get on with other questions.
Yeah, really. I wanted to ask, what skills or qualities do people sometimes miss out on that are most important when it comes to client relationships, particularly when it comes to things like investment banking or wealth management? What's an underrepresented skill in that
Sam and Miriam, not
area?
sure which one of you want to cover that.
I think empathy is definitely like an underrated skill. I think people think like, I think people associate empathy a lot with like, I don't know, therapist or something like that. And obviously
Mm.
in our job, we're here to provide a service, but if you've got empathy, you've got the basis of building a positive relationship with someone. And also I definitely think having that right level of confidence is really important as well. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people find it difficult to come across in the right level of confidence. A lot of people come across too confident and a lot of people come across underconfident. So again, it's kind of like finding that sweet spot. And I'll be honest, like that's something that I've struggled with a lot is being confident enough. So it's kind of finding that middle level and kind of coming across in the right way as well.
Got you. Simon, what about you?
This might sound a bit silly, but it's trying to be personable. Like you don't always have to just like don't think just because you're able to talk about what it is that they expect from you on a like level of what the ask is. Try to always take your time and like take an interest in people's lives as well,
Mhm.
because it's just something that's important when you try to build a relationship, and once you try to give these people a reason as to why they should choose you over anyone else that they could offer out there, just because like you can be that person that they can have a bit of normality with as well. And you don't be under the impression that like you have to make it as like hyper professional and as like clinical
Mhm. Mhm.
as you
Okay.
can.
Got you. No, thank you for that. And I think, yeah, I think my perception before I started working in the corporate world was that everyone was super, super serious. But then when you actually go into a lot of these environments, you start to realize that everyone is actually human and everyone's like normal and not everyone's like super, super, uber professional all the time. And it's important to kind of just always remember to have that human element as well, which is super important. Craig, I can see you have your hands
Yeah,
raised.
it was only a really, really quick one. It was on your question you raised before. I think it was Antoine that mentioned it
Yes.
in terms of skills that are lacking. One of the biggest skills that's lacking is candidates not talking about their skills. Honestly, so frustrating. Like the amount of brilliant work experience or volunteer work or support work that's done and people don't talk about it or don't mention it. I don't think you realize the amount of transferable skills that exist there that we're looking for. That's kind
Mhm.
of the whole
Okay.
basis of our skills approach. So you think like working part-time anywhere, supermarket, wherever, some of the skills you're developing there are really crucial to us in terms of collaboration, in terms of that team build, in terms of leadership, in terms of juggling multiple different projects or dealing with annoying customers, which weirdly enough we also have to do as well here, only on a very rare occasion. But that sort of skill set transfers across very easily. Same with any society involvement you have, like having positions of authority and responsibility, managing money. So you might be the treasurer or being a vice president, having to manage meetings, having to manage, attendance for events. These are all things that involve people skills which are absolutely vital for wealth and personal banking. So I'd say rather than just avoid them because you think, oh, I don't know about that, I might be a little bit embarrassed about it, or I don't think it's going to help me with a banking career. Weirdly enough, I think you'll find it actually might. So being able to include those and actually referencing the transferable skills you picked up for this specific role, honestly, it will help you enormously.
Most
Fantastic.
definitely.
And just to add to what you said, Craig, I'd like to ask, what is the best way to express your skills if let's say you don't really know how, but you have this experience that you have out there in a manner that is marketable to HSBC?
So how do you
Yes.
mean?
So I guess like the question the way I understand that is, let's say for example, Craig, you have like retail experience, right?
Yep,
Or you have like experience that's just
I do.
vastly different to something that like is financial services. What are the ways that you can kind of like articulate that and express that it's relevant to wealth management and personal banking and all the other roles within HSBC basically?
Well, the second point to mention as well is it's all well and good having these transferable skills, but we can't just magic it and go, this fits to this. You need
Mhm.
to have done your research in terms of a motivation for why you're joining the bank. You can't go, I want to join the banking industry because, well, I don't know.
Mhm.
You need to actually understand. So then once you've done a little bit of research, once you've completed a Forage virtual experience, once you've done events like this, once you've learned a little
Starts
bit
to
more,
click.
exactly, it starts to click in. You go, actually, that time when I was managing that, or really managed well, that older lady that lost her purse when I was in the working at, you know, supermarket at Sainsbury's or whatever, and I managed to recover that. That's a really good resolution to a problem. It might seem really insignificant, but it's actually really great in terms of transferable skills and feeds in with what Miriam was talking around empathy. So
Got
I'd
you.
say being able to feed in, you need to do some research and actually explore the bank first before linking in your transferable skills.
That makes absolutely sense. I can see
Fantastic.
Demi also has a question as well. Demi, so how about you go ahead and shoot? I'm giving the platform to the people that are going to be hosting these sessions moving forward, guys. So I like that my team is stepping up.
Yes, just to ask a question that was actually comments as well, was that what kind of sets HSBC apart from its competitors, and how, for me as an applicant, how can I kind of how can this boost my personal growth and like career progression in the future?
I feel bad putting the grads on the spot here because it's not really fair for them. I've worked pretty much everywhere. And honestly, it's not something that I could even answer. It's something that's very personal to you, Demi. Like I found HSBC is very much around the people. It's got a culture that actually mirrors with what we talk about on the website. I would say I've worked at organizations. Well, in fact, most organizations will tell you how amazing it is there and the culture's great and we do this and that. Doesn't necessarily marry up. Everyone's got that same paragraph they put on their website. Go to these events, get to meet the people, get to find out if it's a sort of ambience and atmosphere that you like, whether you actually, are, are bouncing off the people or not. That's the best way that you can determine it. Going to insight events, signing up to them, going and attending the offices. That's the best way that you're going to learn, rather than someone going, "Oh, I reckon X is the best or Y is the best." Based on what? You need to go and explore and discover that for yourself, because rather than hosting it out as brand perception, in terms of league tables or whatever it might be, you know, your version. I mean, it's a bit like if we got everyone on here to say what's your favorite food, we'd have a whole range of different answers. Why? Is one food better than the other? Like, no, it's because it's a preference to you individually. So it's something you need to go and discover and learn for yourself. Sometimes it's trial and error by going to certain events, but you need to go and discover that for yourself and find out where best fits for you.
That
Yeah,
that
thank you
makes
so
sense.
much for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, like it kind of ties into the fact that your career is something that you make your own. So ultimately, like, if you do your research and you kind of understand that, okay, cool, HSBC, this is how they set themselves apart, you kind of assess, okay, cool, how does this benefit me as an individual and my career aspirations? And I think it's important for people to always recognize that your career is something that you also have to play a big part in making a reality in terms of like what you want long term later down the line.
What you could ask, though, Stephen, is why Miriam and Simon have stayed here. I know they've only been here a short time, but ultimately, what has surprised you, or what has really lived up to expectations in terms of HSBC, and hopefully you plan on staying here, right, for beyond your grad scheme. But we won't force you into an answer there.
Putting them on the spot there, Craig.
Yeah, so for me, what you said, Craig, I think is quite right. During my time here, I've met a lot of people that are not only very interesting, not in terms of only the grad, like the way that they've taken to ultimately end up in the position that they are, because there's a lot of diverse backgrounds and there's a lot of people that have been doing incredibly cool things before they joined the bank. It's very interesting to see what career paths you can take, and ultimately make some very interesting people that you'd like to interact with. But on top of that, they've also been incredibly supportive and very interested in trying to boost your own career progression. I've met a lot of fairly important people that have taken the time out of their diary to speak to me for like half an hour or whatever, listen to like my concerns or like any queries I had, and given me some valuable answers and support. So that's definitely something that I found very unique in terms of like cultures, and in terms of cultures and how they're looking to foster the early careers talent. And over like on top of that, I very much like this international aspect of HSBC. There's a lot of very interesting opportunities out there across our markets as well. There's a lot of different things that you can get involved with. And there are programs that are tailored towards you as well. Not so much during the internship or the grad scheme, to be honest, but afterwards you can definitely look to work in different markets, different countries, get some experience of that. And lastly, what I particularly like about this grad scheme that I'm currently on is it gives you a lot of flexibility and the opportunity to have a look around and to explore the business a bit more, which I don't think is which isn't really usually the case for a lot of these programs, because you come in, you're expected to do this role for like a certain period of time, and then you either have to decide that based on this one role you did, you really like the company, or you don't. Whereas here you've got the chance to look around, meet a lot of different people, and get a lot of exposure and really interesting perspectives.
Miriam, any perspective from your side of why you decided to stay or what surprised you the most?
I think I don't know if it's been mentioned already, but we have these things at HSBC called ERGs, which are employee resource groups, and they're basically like university societies, and they're for employees to come together on issues that they're interested in and passionate about. So we've got like ones to do with like mental health and disability, we've got ones to do with ethnic diversity, kind of equality for women who are trying to get into high positions in the bank. And I think for me that's really important because we get kind of dedicated time to do that in our working day. It's completely like unrelated to our day jobs, it's side of desk, but I think for me that really keeps me motivated, and I can be having a really, tough day, and just knowing that I've got something to do related to that is really important to me. So like I'm part of like the early careers group for like social mobility, and to me that's really important. And I was able to like apply for a leadership role in that recently, which fingers crossed goes okay. But it's just things like that that keep me motivated. It's not just your day job, it's everything else that you get with it as well.
Nice. No, I like that. And that kind of ties into the next question I was going to ask in terms of the different things that exist outside of your day-to-day work, but you've kind of answered that correctly. And I think I would advocate for anyone that does end up getting these internships and these grad roles to really like try and get involved in extracurriculars, because I actually find it boosts like, your career prospects as well, just kind of showcasing that you're a well-rounded person beyond the day-to-day roles as well. So I think it's really important. A bit of a if we tie it back to like the earlier parts of the recruitment process before you even get to speak to an actual human, before you get to speak to Meenakshi, for example, are there any tips, tricks, any resources, any things that you kind of leverage to help you with the online assessments, or like, little hacks to help you navigate the recruitment process that you guys could share? Any sites beyond the HSBC Candidate Hub that helped in your journey? That would be much appreciated, just to help give some insider info to our attendees today.
I don't mind quickly going first. So I think there was two main things for me. The first thing was being prepared that you're going to be asked a lot of like example-based questions, like we've kind of already talked about. So, those annoying like tell me about a time when, and they're usually in like the video interview stage before you'll speak to like a recruiter where you just record your answers. So it's really important to like brainstorm examples in advance, because if you get asked on the spot and you haven't prepared an example, or you haven't got examples ready in your head, it can be really difficult to like think of one on the spot. So I definitely think of lots of different examples you can use and literally write them on like a little post-it note and keep it next to the computer or something. And then the second thing is not so much in terms of preparation, but just not being afraid if you get asked a question you're not sure about the answer to. Obviously, if you knew the answer to all the questions, you wouldn't be applying to a graduate or intern scheme, you'd be like running the bank. So it's kind of being not scared to get a question you're not going to know the answer to. We've all had questions we don't know the answer to, and they're not looking for the right answer. They're looking about how you go about it. So being able to, be open and say, this is an area that, I'm interested to learn more about, and, this is my initial ideas and this is how I'd go about finding the answer. Things like that can really turn it around and work in your favour.
Perfect. Thank you. Simon, you?
Sorry, what was the question?
So the question was more so around if there's any like tips, hacks that helped you navigate the recruitment process beyond actually speaking to a recruiter at HSBC, when it came to the online assessments. Were there any things that you kind of did to help you navigate the process?
Practice is definitely a huge aspect, and really make use of all the resources that are provided to you. I think I've seen one of the Forge ones that was shared in the chat. So try to go through them and like try to do as many of these as possible. It doesn't really have to be just specific to HSBC, but try to understand the process and familiarize yourself with the different question formats and how you expect it to answer certain things as well. So you don't get caught off guard, or you don't just sit there I think, oh my God, I don't really know how to do this, or like I've never seen the way to answer this question before. So that's definitely a tip. And whilst you do it, don't stress too much. Like I've personally found the HSBC one quite enjoyable compared to some of the other ones I was doing. So especially at the day in the life ones, I found not only helpful to help you get an understanding of the work that you'll be doing during the internship and also during the grad scheme, but just yeah, trying to have a bit of fun with it as well, and just like trying to like immerse yourself in it, and try to get into that mindset of, oh, this is actually what I'm doing as like my professional job at the moment. How would I approach that?
Yeah, no, I was literally the word I was gonna say was immerse. Like you want to immerse your like HSBC have so many resources on their site, and every time me and Steph are kind of sitting down thinking of content to make, the first thing we do is we just go on HSBC's website, and there's so many things that can help you guys. I think it's definitely immersing yourself in that ecosystem and all the resources they have available. But then the second point that you mentioned, I think is really important, Simon, is kind of just pretending to be a wealth and personal banker. You know, if you kind of like act like you're already one, it kind of like puts you in that mindset of like, you know, when you're having conversations with hiring managers in the field, you can have like competent conversations about the industry, and that kind of helps the process as well. Coming up close to the end, and I can see that Craig, you had your hand up, so I'll kind of
Yeah,
leave you
it was only a really
to
quick
wrap up.
one. It was only a really quick one, Stephen. And it was more to do, you asked for hacks. Obviously, we've been offering support resources, and obviously a lot of people will get loads of those from different avenues. But some of the hacks that we find that are quite useful, think about the fact that all your assessments are online, so you'll be accessing a laptop, you'll be at home. One of the best advantages that you've got is, it sounds really old school, probably show my age, but ultimately post-it notes around the edge of your screen, or a separate screen that is open that has some notes. And I'm talking bullet points, not chapter and verse. You're not going to read off it like a script for each answer, because we will notice that stuff. But having little notes, little bullet points that maybe relate to experiences that you're proud of, or stuff where you've done something related to a team, or you know, something related to your transferable skills that will just help jog your memory. Because let's be honest, we all get there. I do too. You go into an interview, you're fully prepared, you get an interview, they ask you a question, and you're not even sure if you can remember your name. So having some prompts or having some bullets to at least help redirect you where you're perhaps struggling, or you're, you know, struggling to come up with the words. That's one way of doing it. Having a glass of water there as well. It's an old classic, but it works. If you get given a question, just having a glass of water there in front of you, just having that little short pause while you're having a drink of your water, whilst you're thinking through the question, just buys you that little bit of extra time. It's weird that that doesn't seem like any time's gone at all, versus just staring at a screen blankly. At least you can buy yourself a little bit of time, but be comfortable. To Simon's point and Miriam's point, just be comfortable about this. This is as much, it sounds weird, and I know it's easy for Simon and Miriam to say because they bagged the roles, but ultimately it is about enjoying yourself, about being honest, about being open. We want authenticity, so to make sure you really inject that into your answers that you give. Don't try and tell us what you think we want to hear, because that will not get you the job. Tell us about you honestly, in terms of what your motivations are, what you've done to get yourself here. That's what we're interested in. So if you try and pretend to be someone you're not, that person will not get the role. As simple as that.
Well, you know, thank you so much for that kind of advice, Craig. And I think, yeah, we'll kind of wrap up at this point. Thank you so much for the HSBC team, for the grads, Simon, Miriam, Rebecca, Minaxi, and Craig for taking the time out to really speak to us. As you guys know, we have an upcoming session on Thursday that's going to be delving into the tech roles available at HSBC, specifically their digital business services division as well. So you guys can also sign up for those sessions as well. And you should expect an email from us to give us feedback on how this event went, what you kind of want to hear more of. That feedback is really helpful in making sure that we're curating sessions that you guys can really enjoy. And also, I just wanted to kind of platform my team in the next session. It's going to be Antoine and Demi. If you guys can wave, show your face. They're the ones that are going to kind of be hosting these sessions moving forwards, and really kind of like making sure that your questions are answered and stuff like that as well. And all these questions that you sent in that weren't answered, I think thank you, Minaxi, for kind of like, you know, joining and answering questions in the chat as well. So if we can just all drop a big thank you to HSBC in the chat before we sign off, that will be much appreciated. Yeah, let's see the thank yous come through. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. More thank yous coming through. And yeah, as I mentioned, look out for those emails that we're going to send later as well. And be sure to sign up for the next virtual event. Spaces are, I think they're like 80 or 95% full. Correct me if I'm wrong, Demi, but you know, there's still a few spaces left, so you guys can
Yeah.
sign up to that as well. And
Few spaces
yeah,
left, but guys, apply.
yes, most definitely. And I can see, Craig, you just put the dates up as well for the different programs. Again, that's Demi's responsibility. So she's the one that's going to be uploading all those roles to the site as well. So you guys, again, look out for the emails to make sure you don't miss that. But thank you guys so much. We'll wrap it up here. And a recording of the
Thank you.
session will be available shortly as well. Have a good evening, guys.
Have a great evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.